Greetings, everyone. Happy Monday. On the heels of two amazing 14.x releases, today I'm excited to kick off our monthly release 14.2. We just added a 3-year product vision video. Would love for you to check it out and let us know what you think. And our 1-year themes continue to be the same: AST leadership, adoption through usability, and SaaS first posture. As you know, we plan ambitiously and our roadmaps are subject to change without notice. Having said that, you can follow along and contribute by going to the Direction Kickoff page and looking at all the videos and issues. We welcome any and all contributions and inputs. With that, let me share the order of kickoff today. David will start off by covering the development and the section, followed by Kenny, who will walk us through the ops section, and Josh will take us through the enablement section. With that, take it away, David.
Thank you very much, Anoop. And let me get my screen share here. So to kind of dive into the dev section first, the create stage is focused on adoption through usability. For the source code team, they're working on refactoring the repository browser to be within a single app. So today, they're focused on moving these components over. The value here is that things will load much faster for the user, and it'll continue to improve the usability of our source code part of the product. The code review team is focused on improving the merge request experience and code review experience. So here, first, they're working on improvements to how merges are done. This will include new icons and other components that will make it a lot more crisp for you to understand the current state of your merge request. This is a multi-month project they're kicking off for the next quarter, and of course, that'll start with 14.2. Included in that is restructuring the merge request widget. Today, inside the merge request, a lot of the interactions are below the merge button, and we found through our user testing that does not flow with the way our users currently look at the UI. So part of this will be relaying it out. Here you can see, here it's telling you it's ready to merge, and then interactions are before the merge button itself. And you can see that the whole way through as additional components are exposed. So this is, again, a multi-milestone project, but improving the code review experience. The editor team is also working on adoption through usability and improving the interactions with the content editor. And as you can see on this first one, they are working on giving you text options in line. When you highlight, this is very much in line with other types of editors and giving you the standard ability to then just highlight and hit what you would like to do as opposed to going back up and using the top buttons. They're also bringing snippets into the content editor. And so you'll be able to see that in 14.2, both the combination of the button will now be there, as well as being able to embed those snippets inside the content editor. And then finally, for the Gitlab team, they're working on infra dev related items with the goal of making Gitlab cluster even higher performance. Again, this is part of our move to Gitlab cluster as the default for Gitlab. And the team is very much excited to keep on pushing forward on usability there. For the plan stage, also focused on adoption through usability and improving performance via infra-dev focus. First, the ecosystem team, they are looking at creating a proxy for self-managed GitLab with the integration for Jira. So what you'll see inside the GitLab app inside of Jira is the option to select self-manage and then put in the instance URL. Today, that's something that has to be done not user-friendly to be able to allow self-manage to be able to talk to a Jira deployment for Jira issues. The project management team is focused on performance improvements. We've been highlighting this for you the last couple kickoffs. Again, here focused on improving the search API when listing out issues. And then the product planning team is starting a multi-milestone project of introducing a feature component at the project level. As you can see here, this will give you a planning component at the project level, so a single leveled item. So for the first release, they'll be focused on just introducing that. And of course, there'll be multiple MVCs after that to get it properly fully integrated in. And then wrap up dev with manage. Manage is focused on adoption through usability as well as SaaS first. Here, the compliance team is working on bringing group level settings in for merge request approvals. Kind of give you a sense what that looks like. Here are some mockups starting with instance level. So here I'm setting that MRs cannot be merged from users who make a commit to that merge request. If we then looked at it at the group level, you'll see that's now enabled and grayed out that it cannot be disabled. And then of course, at the project level, you can see the same thing again, as well as things implemented at the group level. This is going to be a multi-milestone project starting at the group level, but very excited to see that be able to propagate down from the top level all the way down to the project. The Access team is focused on providing API components for both group level access tokens, as well as SAML group sync. Again, very much a focus on improving what is there today for adoptability, as well as focusing on our SaaS or GitLab managed option first. And then wrap up the dev section and manage. The import team is working on APIs for group migration. This will be a huge improvement for customers who are moving from self-managed to SaaS or SaaS back to self-managed, giving them the capability to fully migrate the project as opposed to having to export and then re-import it back in. To head over to the SEC section, start us off with stack analysis. They're continuing their work to switch to SemGrep as one of the primary analyzers for SaaS. With 14.0, they rolled out support for TypeScript, JavaScript, and Python. In 14.2, they're focused on switching over for Ruby, Ruby on Rails, as well as Rust. This will allow us to archive several more scanners and be able to get everyone on a unified scanner. For the dynamic analysis team, they're focused on their Dast on-demand scanner scheduler. That's a tongueful there. As we had in 14.0, we had our initial release of Dast on Demand. It might have actually been 13.12, and now we're looking to expand upon that. So here in the mockup, you can see what you would normally see today for an on-demand scan. At the bottom, you have the option to schedule that scan, and you can set it to run on a specific day at a specific time, as well as you can set it to then repeat, and then that scan will continually run on that schedule. We're also looking to continue to expand what we've released related to our new Dast browser-based engine. Here, they're focused on improving some of the passive checks, specifically around content type header checks, as well as continuing to expand that to the point where we can begin to make this the default scanner for everyone. For composition analysis, they are focused on their viable to complete plan. They did some usability testing and identified some other areas they want to improve. Primarily, this milestone, they'll be working on the auto remediation functionality. So this is bringing the GitLab security bot into the product, as well as beginning to research what to do with license scanning moving forward. As we've discussed on several kickoff calls, we put license scanning on hold in a maintenance mode while we focused on dependency scanning. We're now this year beginning to bring that back and see what are the better paths forward. And they're researching everything from embedding this directly into our dependency scanner, be giving everyone just a single engine, as well as looking at other projects, open source related, that we could also integrate and contribute to. And then finally, for secure, we talked on the last couple kickoff calls about the ability to create a vulnerability record via the API. This is now bringing that functionality into the UI and allowing you to create vulnerability findings. Here you can see a snapshot of what that will look like. Right off the vulnerability report, you'll have a button at the top that says Add New Vulnerability. You can give it a name, description, all the information that we would automatically populate from the scanner. This will be huge for AST leadership, and that's obviously the theme so far for secure. This will allow you to bring in external results, let's say from external pen tests, and have them all be on a single view within GitLab. Really nice extension of what the platform can do today. And to finish up the SEC section with Protect, with 14.0, we defaulted to Trivy as the container scanning engine. Starting in 14.2, we're working on making that run against running containers. So this is going to blur that line for container scanning between the development side and the ops side. Those scanning results will be provided within the typical view you're used to today. There'll be some new tabs added. Here you can see security, and here are the 4 new vulnerabilities that were found from the last running against the container. I want to highlight this looks very much like the vulnerability report. Our goal is to make sure you have a unified experience no matter where you are in the UI. Same thing will be true about any found access tokens. The final part for the Protect stage, they're working on extending security orchestration. We've talked about the release of Dash support as the first scanner. They're now in 14.2 beginning to look at secret detection as well. If you don't remember what that UI looks like, here's our working prototype, where you're now able to come in and say scan execution, select what you want run, and then you can also then select the scanner. So very exciting to see that continue to grow within the product and expand upon it at the project level, as well as their plan to bring that up to the group level as well, giving you unified security policy orchestration. And with that, I will hand it over to Kenny.
Awesome, thanks, David. I'm really excited about bringing external vulnerabilities into our vulnerability dashboard. That's going to be an awesome achievement. Let me share my screen. My name is Kenny Johnston. I am the Director of Product covering the Ops section. As a reminder, the Ops section is comprised of verify, package, release, configure, and monitor. And as I highlighted in our last kickoff, we have a new top-level direction page called deployment, which covers release and configure. And the release team is already working on improvements to our environments dashboard in order to pursue that direction this coming release. I'm going to go through some highlights that cover our two primary themes in the ops section, SaaS first and adoption through usability. On SaaS first, I want to talk about what the Verify CI pipeline execution group is going to be working on in 14.2. Their primary focus is on showcasing CI usage in your project and group level to users in a more user-friendly way. Today, if you are using shared runners on your self-managed instance or primarily using shared runners on our gitlab.com instance, you can have a quota for how many minutes you can use on a monthly basis. And right now, you don't get a full view of the historical trends of that usage. So in 14.2, we're going to be adding dashboard components that give you a view of your CI minutes usage both by month to get an overview over time and by project to see which projects within your group might be consuming more or less CI minutes. I'm really excited about this feature. It continues to highlight and provide more usability features for our users who use gitlab.com shared runners, which are continuing to grow usage month over month. In our theme around adoption through usability, I wanted to highlight that we're going to be adding, in partnership with the IBM team, GitLab runner support for Power 9 architecture in 14.2. The IBM team has been working alongside us to contribute this capability. We're excited to see it ship in 14.2. We're also going to be working on adoption of GitLab CI via our pipeline editor. So over the last 6 releases, we've been adding new capabilities to the pipeline editor. One thing that we had not added was the ability to check the syntax of your of the CI YAML that you're writing against a kind of known up-to-date schema. We use an external schema that's stored in Schema Store, and for self-managed instances, that's meant that if you didn't have an external connection from your GitLab instance, you weren't able to get the benefits of schema validation directly in the pipeline editor. So in 14.2, we're going to be removing that requirement of the connection to the external store, storing the schema directly within your GitLab instance and referencing that, making sure it's up to date. This is all in an effort to get to what we're really excited about, which is adding autocomplete while writing your GitLab YAML. For anyone who's written pipeline definitions in GitLab, there are tons of flexibility and capabilities when doing so, but it can sometimes be difficult to consistently go back and check our docs to understand what keywords require which specific syntax. So we're excited in releases after 14.2 to be able to add this autocomplete capability where you can quickly find information about the different keywords right while you're editing your YAML. I also wanted to highlight in adoption through usability that we found a number of users of our PyPy package registry. We're wanting to reference pypy.org for any packages that weren't found in GitLab's package registry. So in 14.2, we're going to be adding this ability to retrieve packages from pypi.org that aren't found in GitLab's registry. This is similar to functionality we've added for other registries, and a step in our direction to have your GitLab registries kind of be the complete proxy for any public or other private registries that you might be utilizing. And lastly, in 14.2, I'm excited to announce that actually releasing, it's available on gitlab.com today, but we'll be releasing it in 14.1 here in just 3 short days. We added the ability for you to use a tunnel from your GitLab Kubernetes agent to connect to your registry, to connect to your Kubernetes clusters while performing CI. So this is a really important capability that prevents users from having to punch a hole directly to their Kubernetes clusters for GitLab runners to connect to. And we use the existing connection that you've made between your GitLab instance and your Kubernetes cluster via the agent to execute commands that you would be wanting to run in CI. We'll be adding this in 14.1 and moving it to core in 14.2. I want to highlight that this does not mean that other features that utilize the agent, like pull-based deployment or network security integrations, will be moved to core. But we're really excited about bringing the agent and the ability to register your agent to core and the ability to execute jobs over the tunnel to core. Those are the highlights for the ops section for 14.2. I'm really excited about all of them. With that, I will hand it over to Josh.
Thanks, Kenny. I can't wait for the syntax, the inline syntax code complete in the editor. Super excited for that. But let's get started with the enablement section and all that we are working on here in 14.2. Again, we have similar themes here as above, and let's get started with adoption through usability. We have a couple items in this category we're working on. The first one is we are working to improve the performance of the counts aspect of global search. So if I go into here and search for Gitlab, you can see that we populate a number of counts, and depending on your search and depending on your project and whether you have advanced search turned on or not, this can take some time. And so you can actually see here our P95 is actually up around 15 seconds on gitlab.com, which provides a poor experience for all those users affected. And so we are working to improve this, to improve the overall performance and give you your results faster. From there, we're also working to help give you additional tools to find the content you're looking for. We've been adding improved options to sort and otherwise filter the results. And in this release, we are working to add the ability to sort by popularity here. This would be things like upvotes and likes. In this way, if you have a common search term, perhaps like design, you can actually then use that to help to cut through some of the signal and noise based on what you're looking for. So looking forward to that as well. And next up, we are continuing our work on the ability to make secondaries completely transparent to end users. Right now, if you are working with a company who or a deployment of GitLab who has multiple secondaries of their GitLab instances across the world for performance improvements, you have to be aware of that. So as a user, you have the cognitive load of knowing that there's different servers out there, and you happen to actually select the one that's best for you, in particular for the web UI. And so we want to make this completely go away and make it so that the end user just types in their GitLab URL and the right thing happens for the user. And so we're doing this by having these secondaries capable of proxying some content off to the primary, which is the only one that can accept write access. And that way you can have a load balancer in front, the user gets directed to the right instance, the writes get magically transported off to the primary, and to the end user, it's like magic, and they don't even need to be aware the secondaries exist. They are completely taken to the right one for their own deployment, which is great. So they'll all have a faster experience with less cognitive overhead and less education needing to be rolled out to them. From there, we are also continuing our work to help improve the process of promoting a secondary to a primary. And so right now, the current process requires edits to configuration and commands. And this can be potentially error prone if a human is doing it, or potentially more complex to automate if you are automating this. And so we've been working on a lot of improvements here to help improve the overall process of promotion and demotion. And so the goal here in this particular epic is to have a single command to promote a secondary to a primary and removing all the need for the edits configuration and other complexity. So we're hoping to make our admins' lives a little easier with this particular feature. From there, we can move on to SaaS first. And the first item we are working on is continuing our work to upgrade GitLab to Ruby 3.0. The Ruby group had a goal of having Ruby 3.0 be 3 times faster than Ruby 2.0, and they hit that on some metrics. And so we are looking to take advantage of that, plus all the new great things in Ruby 3.0. And that, of course, just means work for us. We have to upgrade some dependencies, we have to make some code changes. And so this involves this work here, which you can see in our epic. And so we are continuing to make some progress here in 14.1 and 14.2 to leverage those new features. Next up, we are continuing our database scalability work. And in this particular instance, doing that by offloading workloads that would normally hit the primary node of your database cluster. So with Postgres, all writes have to go to the primary. But in this instance, we have some background jobs that don't actually write any data, but still utilize the primary. And so we can now set those to go off and use read-only secondaries and save and free up some utilization from our primary. And so we've been doing this with some good success already on some background jobs, and we'll be continuing through some other ones. From there, we are also working similarly on database scalability here. And in this case, with migrating our primary keys to a larger data type. So way back when GitLab got started, the primary key for Ruby default was an integer. And as GitLab has grown, and as in particular CI has exploded in popularity, this has posed some challenges, and we are at risk of, on .com at least, running out of primary index space. And so we've been going through and moving these indexes over to larger data types so they have more headroom. And we are about complete here. We will be cutting over all active use to the new columns with the new data types in 14.2. And then the next step after that would be to simply delete the old columns with the old integer, and that would complete the migration for many of our tables. So we are well in advance of even .com's projected cases, and so we are doing great here, but it's a great update for the team to continue to close this one out. From there, we are also working to continue to, again, scale GitLab's database. And in this case, we are doing that by taking all of our CI content and shifting that to a new database. For self-managed, this won't introduce extra complexity, but for people who need it, you can actually then optionally have that secondary CI database running on a separate database infrastructure and give you significantly more headroom in case you are in danger of running out of how large of instances you can potentially vertically scale your primary. So this will help give some extra headroom for folks. And similarly, we're also working to help trim our overall database sizes. We're doing this in a few ways. One of the items here we'll continue working on in 14.2 is adding options for partitioning and then pruning database tables where you really don't necessarily want to keep everything. We actually have a few self-managed customers as well who have to go in and periodically delete content from their webhook logs table. And we can actually automate this and help apply this across a few different tables and overall shrink the overall database size and automate it to help make it easier for folks and remove one kind of admin action that they have to go through and do. Last, we can move on to new markets here and our GA release of our operator. We've been working on this for a number of months, and we are getting very, very close. There's a few last items we have to go through and work on. The first one is we are working to improve the installation experience, and we've landed on utilizing Customize as the installation experience for our operator. The value here is that it can provide a single installation command for the operator, and it also supports having some customization options as well if you want to apply labels or other types of things across the various types of Kubernetes objects it will create. Also, Customize has been baked into kubectl as well, and so it's a nice lightweight approach that still provides some flexibility for deploying the operator. And also, if you're familiar with deploying operators, you'll see a number of other ones also taking this tack for the installation as well. So we are so excited on the operator. Again, we are very close. We also doing a couple other things around adding some QA tests and also adding support for a few config options that wasn't quite there yet for things like external Redis and external Postgres. But we are getting very, very close here and can't wait to make this available for all of you to run your production instances of GitLab on OpenShift. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Anoop to close us out.
Thank you, Josh. Wow, I heard a lot of amazing things. I heard enhancing merge request usability, the core workflow for many of our developers and other team members, high performance Gitlab cluster for demanding users that continue to migrate off NFS, better Jira integration for our self-managed users, group level settings for MR approvals that will make thousands of projects. It'll make it so easy to have thousands of projects be compliant instead of going per project. On-demand dash scheduler for worry-free operations. You don't have to remember, you don't opt out running the on-demand scan. Dependency scanning going to complete, that's amazing. Scanning running containers with Trivy, that's going to be great to help protect your production environments. Security policy orchestrations, again, to make it easy to secure the product that you're building. Visibility into CI usage, extremely important as more and more customers drive more and more CI usage to make their products better and faster. Power 9 runner support with IBM to help our joint customers. I'm super excited that we're moving the CI tunnel for Kubernetes agent to core. That's going to spur a lot of more contributions and interactions with our community. Global search sort by popularity makes things easier. Single command promotion of geosecondary. I also heard a lot of amazing scaling work we are doing as larger and larger enterprises adopt GitLab, whether it's shifting to read-only DB, whether it's shifting read-only DB load to replicas, partitioning, decomposing our DB, and obviously the GA of the operator. I'm super excited. This is going to be the best release ever. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month.